Hello and welcome to Tonka Talk. I'm Natalie Webster. We share the ways people create community, the way people create connection. And today, my guest is Mandy Meisner, and she is involved in a whole bunch of stuff. This woman works in politics. She was in a reality show that we're going to learn more about. And she's involved with 8 other female owners in running a vacation rental. It's also an event venue out in the Lake Minnetonka area that we're going to talk about as well and find out how does she do these things. Welcome, Mandy Meisner.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natalie. It is a pleasure being here this morning and just sitting down and chatting with you.
Yes, we are. If you're catching us live on Facebook, hello. Go ahead and put any questions or comments and we'll take up any questions that we can. If you're catching us on the Tonka Talk podcast later, hello as well. We're happy to have you here. Now, where to even start? Mandy. Hello. Hi, Kelly. Buenos dias. Hello. Kelly's out of Cuba.
Hola.
Right? I think I got that right. Now, Mandy, I met when she was there was a reality series that came out called Miss Independent, and it's INN. And it was filmed around 9 women who came together. They bought it was a bed and breakfast back then called the Birdhouse Inn that was built in 1858. It was showing its age to say the least. And these women came together, bought it, renovated it, and opened it. And today it's a successful vacation rental and an event venue. And there was a reality series filmed around it that was nominated for a regional Emmy. And it kind of shared that whole journey of these women coming together, purchasing it. It was hilarious. And this was really a first for you because let's kind of start a little bit with you work in politics.
Yes. So there's a little bit maybe of a disconnection of how did this happen? A politician getting involved in this project. Yes, I am a politician. My day job is an Anoka County commissioner. So I represent the cities of Fridley, Columbia Heights, and Hilltop. Now, I know the first thing that most people think is like, oh, a county commissioner. What is that? What is that? Which is totally normal. So I kind of like to say, county commissioner, it's the most important job that you've never heard of. But in local government, and it is local government, it is considered the invisible layer of government for a reason. So you have school board, which is local, your city, and then county. So when I say local, that is really grassroots, boots on the ground, as well as nonpartisan. But the thing with county is that all of our state legislators, so every session they're making the laws, but it's the counties that have to implement them.
Okay.
So we are the literal delivery systems for all of the laws. So there are 87 counties in the state of Minnesota. That is our job. And then as a board, depending in the metro area where there's larger populations, there's boards of 7. In the greater Minnesota area where the population is less, there are boards of 5.
So it just kind of goes on and on from there in terms of sizes and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So depending. But yeah, so our job is then to take the laws that the legislators create in the Senate and House, and then make sure that they are done. So that's what I like. So I'm very much a boots on the ground.
Yeah, and you're very much involved with, that's public service. You're doing a lot. And I know you're a big volunteer in the community as well. You're always out doing these things. And one day you're at a networking group and
actually, so it wasn't really for me a part of the networking group, even though I know some of the women that are part of this networking group.
Sure.
Kelly Olson, who is the anchor, the glue of this entire project. It's her that I know, and she had just randomly sent out in the universe and social media, hey, I think I'm going to buy this property.
Yeah.
She said, sight unseen. I'm looking for some potential women owners. That was sort of her vision. Like who's interested? So I saw that along with I'm quite sure hundreds of other people. I was pretty quick to reach out to her. And I mean, because we've been friends and I've known her for over a decade.
Mhm.
I had reached out and I said, I'm really intrigued by this. What is this? So I met with her at the property, had my list of questions, and then obviously decided to go for it. But I was intrigued mostly about the collaborative nature of women,
Yeah.
and then I loved that this was an historic building, 1858, the
Yeah.
same year that the state of Minnesota actually became a state.
Mhm.
There's just something very romantic to me about being a steward of that
Yeah. Yeah, of
history.
that property.
Yeah. So those are the things that really appealed to me. And then it was just kind of a lot of things aligned then in terms of what her vision was of the mission and what this
Mhm.
might look like. But it was a big deal for me. I'm not an entrepreneur. This is my first attempt at entrepreneurship, but the idea of learning it with
Yeah.
women, that is really what appealed to me. So at that time, nobody knew who the end group was going to be. I just
Mhm.
knew, okay, it's going to be
So
9 other
you were
women.
just like, "Sure, yeah. I mean, I've never done this before." And this is what I love about
Yeah.
this story and this group of women who took on this bed and breakfast and turned it into this vacation rental and event venue. And why it was so interesting and the show was made about it was because, like you're saying, it's this there were many of them who had never done this before. And you as well, but you were still what really appealed to you about, "Yeah, sure, I'll do this. I'll get in on this, and not only that, I'll also be on the show with just everything else because 'cause you've
Hmm.
got your job you're doing, you're raising your children, you've
Hmm.
got your volunteering." Were you worried or scared or nervous or
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was definitely out of my comfort zone, which was one of the elements that appealed to me, right?
Mhm,
So you mentioned I'm into politics. I'm still relatively new. I'm about 5 years in to being quote unquote a politician.
mhm.
But I wanted also, I think it's important to do things outside of that realm. It's a pretty intense profession to be in. So those things and like getting outside of my comfort level, appeal to me. But
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely, it was very nerve wracking. But for me too, like. And I know you're interviewing other people as well, but one of my best friends, Maria, she just happened to also be interested. So again, there were so many just things that aligned personally and professionally
yeah, to do
that
this.
that worked out. And so it was just one of those, I think, questions that as women, especially, like I'm, getting older and like getting hopefully a little bit wiser. And it's like, all right, if I don't try this, if I don't
Yeah,
go for it, am I gonna
yeah, are
regret
you gonna
not,
regret doing
yeah,
it?
not
Yeah,
taking that chance? So at the end of the day, I decided, yep, I'm just gonna go for it. And then here I am.
yeah, and here you
Yeah.
are, so
Oh, but
the
but the show, none of us knew about the show. Like that was
yeah,
like
you
a
didn't know about the
second.
show in the
Oh no.
beginning.
Oh no, not at all. That
That
was
makes
like a
sense.
mm-mm.
Kelly's asking, any ghosts in the mansion? So this
Ooh.
building, again, it was built in 1858. It was a family home originally. It became a bed and breakfast that changed ownership a few times. And I think it's very interesting that when you all started doing the renovation and the demo on the inside, you would find things that reflected the earlier time period. Did you ever hear anything, or the question is, any ghosts in the
Yeah,
mansion?
I see that. Well, thanks, Kelly, for the question. I have personally not. However, I'll be honest. So the main house is right. So it's 7 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, gorgeous. And we obviously renovated the entire property, but
Mhm.
there's the original like basement.
Yeah.
And so, and it's like these rickety old, it's
Mhm.
almost like a ladder. Your feet can barely sort of fit on these rickety, steps
Stairs
going
were so
down.
small in the
Yeah, yeah.
1800s. I think people had smaller feet and they were definitely seemed to be shorter based on how they
Right.
built.
I don't know, something, but you go down into the basement and so I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I still haven't really encountered a ghost per se, but I could definitely understand like
Yeah.
that is where they would be living. Any sort of spirit would be living in the bowels of that
Yeah.
of that building because like that no renovation happened there. So so it's all dirt and cinder block and who knows what else is down there. But
So in the process of, and I was fortunate enough to see this all come together.
Hmm.
And towards the end of the project is when I met Kelly Olson, who I work with today,
Oh,
which
that's
is funny
right.
because
I
I
forgot
met
you
her.
didn't know her, but until this
Yeah,
project, I
I
forgot that.
I did not know
Yeah.
her till the guest house project.
Yeah.
And it was through interviewing her actually on Tonka Talk that I got to know her. And now fast forward and we're on to other projects and we just opened a real estate brokerage together and these things. And looking back on it now, it's so impressive to me that again, we're talking about 9 women coming together,
Mhm.
purchasing this place, getting it renovated,
Mhm.
and then going ahead and opening it. And it opened to so much excitement, and I think a lot of it too was because it was so cool to have a group of women, some who had, like yourself, never done anything like this
Right.
before. And then you find out, okay, so while we're at it, we're actually gonna film a show around it too. What a great learning experience. Totally true, totally true.
Yeah.
So what was it like? I guess my first question about Miss Independent, the reality series that came out at the time.
Mhm.
What was that like with the filming? And again, that piece of it was something that you had never done.
Weird.
Mhm.
Weird. It was weird. So you know, and as a politician, you know, I am out in the public quite a bit, and I
Yeah.
can be, you know, on camera and things like that. But that's very different than a reality TV show where you have
Yeah.
cameras. You know, they follow you around for like hours, sometimes chunks of, you know, 8 hours at a time,
Mhm.
you know, kind of capturing something that's interesting. But it was weird. It was definitely weird. So for me it was. But it was, like I said, it was a great experience. The thing that what made it fun was that it was with these other women, because I think
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
want to speak for anyone else, but I feel like it was probably a pretty common feeling of like awkwardness and
Yeah.
things. So but what made it fun again is like we were doing it as a group,
Yeah.
and then just kind of actually learning about each other in this medium too. So for example, the actual renovation. So I mean, some of us are comfortable with a hammer. I am not. So that was really interesting to like swing a sledgehammer to actually go through some of the demo. We demoed a wall. It was the kitchen. So just to kind of experience that, but
Yeah.
someone's filming you. So, but you know, the thing is too, after a while, you do kind of forget the cameras are there, because you're just like going about your activity or your project and whatnot. So that part was, I don't know, the whole thing was just different, but it was weird.
Yeah. So when you go ahead and it's been open for about a year and a half now. And if you can picture this,
Mhm.
those not familiar with the area, it's very close to what is probably the most popular recreational lake in Minnesota,
Mm.
which is Lake Minnetonka. And if you were a Prince fan, you might remember, he talked about in that movie to purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. That
I
is
forgot
where,
about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, big pop culture reference.
Hmm.
So the guest house is just a couple of blocks from Lake Minnetonka in
Hmm.
Excelsior, which is a little destination town. So think cute boutiques and restaurants, and you can rent paddle boards and you can do all these things to enjoy the lake. And the guest house being a vacation rental, people can rent it and whatnot, and even have weddings there. What are some of your favorite types of events that you've seen happen there, in this last year and a half that it's been open?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, kind of the traditional low hanging fruit is the whole wedding venue, right?
Yeah.
Which has been amazing. Actually, that was our first booking of business was a wedding. So to be, you know, anytime you're a part of that is great. But as far as, because I like to think outside of the box. I like to get a little creative. So some of the things that I have really enjoyed seeing it being utilized as retreats, right? And then but corporate retreats, because that is the thing too that I think most of us in any kind of mid-sized or even smaller companies, you know, you want to at least once a year have those team building exercises. You want to talk about your strategic plans,
Mhm.
and you want to have a venue that you can, you know, not have to get on a plane necessarily, right? But
Sure.
you want to get away a little bit to a different environment so you can kind of open up your mind and just, you know, be in a different environment that's not business. So I've really enjoyed seeing the amount of corporate retreats. And
Mhm.
the nice thing too is that those corporate retreats can be 24 hours or they can be 48 hours. So it's very customizable. So those are the things that I really enjoy seeing, is just, again, something that's not like a traditional go-to. I mean, yes, of
Yeah.
course, it is an amazing place for a wedding. Absolutely. That will
Or
never
family
change.
reunions too. I know
Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
by there because they're on the property, there are these fruit trees, and there is I lived in the area. I lived in Excelsior for decades, and I'd been by this property many times, and I did not know that there were these fruit trees. It's kind of unusual. And there's a cherry tree and
Mm-hmm.
there's a pear tree.
Yeah.
And so I've gone over now this last summer, and we picked cherries and we picked the pears, and we actually ate quite a bit of them. They were
Mm-hmm.
really large, which was amazing. And sometimes we would be, I'd be with Kelly and she'd be over there checking out the property. And once in a while, we'd run into one of the guests. And it's so neat to hear about why they are there. That they're there. The ones we ran into were there with their families. There was this one family there where they came from different parts of the country, and
Mm-hmm.
they decided to meet up
Yeah.
here in Minnesota, and they stayed at the guest house, and they were just enjoying the whole community and all these things going on around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I think for many, and even myself at one point in life, had the thought, how fun would it be to host a B&B kind of a thing? And it was, before
Yeah.
Airbnbs and VRBOs, the whole short-term
Right.
vacation
Yeah.
rental. I think short-term vacation rentals have really changed that industry. You don't see as many traditional Airbnbs where you actually get breakfast. So at the guest house, people take care of their own meals because it's
Mm-hmm.
basically like a vacation rental.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that how they're with the grounds and everything else, what you were saying about with corporate retreats, this idea of bringing people together, that's something that I think has appealed to me the most about it. When
Mm-hmm.
you were making your decision to go ahead and get involved in the project, is that something that did you feel driven by too? Did you ever have that dream of, I'd love to own a bed and breakfast?
No, I don't know if I ever actually thought I'd love to own a bed and breakfast,
Yeah.
per se. But yeah, that collaborative piece and bringing people together. I mean, I am a connector and a collaborator, so that is
Yeah.
just who I am, how I operate in life. So to do it in this type of way, and then I was going to say too. So I am I don't know if bias is the right word, but I'm such like a pro woman thing.
Sure.
So right,
Yeah.
with this business model, but also the whole, like, is it, I'm not a hunter, and I
Mhm.
didn't grow up with hunters, but is it the hunter's widow whole
Oh,
concept?
yeah,
Like,
Widow's
how much,
Weekend, Hunter's
yeah,
Widow
but
Weekend.
how much fun would that be? So again, like, just getting that group of
Mhm.
women, of your girlfriends, and just, enjoying time together and making
Yeah.
memories. And I love all of that. I love all that. Oh, and I was going to say, so yes, we are not a traditional bed and breakfast, as you
Mhm.
stated.
Mhm.
However, we do have absolutely like a concierge type of vibe. So if your event or a group of people want to have breakfast made for you, we can do that.
Yeah.
We can just, like, there's a menu of different services, and we can do whatever you want or need for your event and your group. So that's a nice thing. So it's
Yeah.
not like you can't have breakfast.
Sure. Yeah,
You
you could.
can,
You could
I
always bring it
promise.
in. You could even
Yes,
bring in a private chef.
100%.
What is it like? You did the show, and the show aired locally as kind of a proof of concept, and there's still talks going on about what's going to happen with it next. Will there be a season 2? Which network will it be on? It's kind of all in talks now.
Yeah.
Since doing that, and now you're a year and a half past that, is there anything that surprised you in the process, or even just the fact of working with your 9 women who came together on this, which means your 9 owners that need to work together
Right.
every single, week, month now of the last year and a half? What is that like to be one of an ownership team of 9 women?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And like the show too, so when it did air, I mean, it was it was wonderful to have family and friends that like, oh, we saw that episode air and that was really fun. And the thing with the show, it was fun. It was fun and it was cute.
Mhm.
And they were all true things. However, it is not the actual running the business part. And so I always do talk about that. Like, no, this group of 9 women, we're running a business, and that looks different than maybe the show, right? So
Yeah.
that's like one little snippet. So what is it like? It's hard. It's
Mhm.
really hard. I mean, as for me, as someone who has not been a business owner, there are all kinds of very steep learning curves that
Sure.
I'm learning, mostly though from others who have been entrepreneurs or do kind of know here are the things that we should be thinking about for operations. As a politician, I bring in my own skill set and my own kind of perspective. So I like that, and I like that we all have different backgrounds, but it gets very challenging because first of all, we're starting from ground zero,
Mhm.
which is pros and cons for everything. The benefit is like, man, we get to literally create what this looks like, together. And the bad news is we're literally creating it. We don't have any guidelines. There's not really a roadmap. There's not like a past model that we can say, well, this is how it was done and we liked it or we didn't. We're like figuring all of this out. And it is really hard because for every decision that you make, it's affecting short and long term. And then that in itself is something as a business owner of a property this large, you always have to balance, right? So
Yeah.
what is it going to be that's going to be successful in the short term? Like right now, that's what we have to do. Let's keep the lights on short term, right? And just like get through the first couple of years of ownership. But then you also have to keep in mind that the patterns that you create are going to affect long term. So those kinds of things are extremely difficult. If there was a camera actually going on during our owner meetings in person, you
Mhm.
would find healthy debate and a lot of conversation and a lot of things to like work out that are hard. And so when I say it doesn't go smoothly, it's a good thing. I like that there's
Mhm.
healthy debate, but you're trying to have this vision that you're creating. You're not even sure what it looks like, and you don't, or at least for me, I don't want to limit myself. So sometimes that can be my hang up is like, oh, the sky is the limit. But as a business owner, that's not always the
Yeah.
most practical. You can't actually have that decision making of the sky is the limit. You do have to make decisions,
Yeah.
and then you have to be timely about those decisions.
How you do it. Kelly Mills is asking, how do
Mhm.
you resolve disagreements? And that's a great question because we're talking about
Yep.
9
Yes.
owners.
Yes. So,
Do you
yep.
just duke it out?
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, yeah, a healthy debate, right? So I would say that the way that we essentially resolve disagreements is, and then this is my politician stuff coming out, but by majority rules, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be unanimous. Everyone gets a say, right? So everyone is respectful. We all get to say, and sometimes that means that conversation is evolving,
Mhm.
and so right. But at the decision point, it's like, okay, which direction are we going and what does the majority want?
Sure.
And so that is pretty much how we resolve it as it should be, in my opinion. I think that is the most respectful. And then for some of these other things, operational management decisions, we can put a timeline on it. So that helps us a lot. So even if the majority decided X, and of course, that means there's a minority, and not everyone agrees.
Yeah.
And depending on either the emotion or the financial impact, we can decide as a group. Well, let's revisit this in 3 months or 6 months or a year. So
Sure.
I think that's really important as well when you're working collaboratively. And I think with women, we're more naturally apt to do this, which is
Mhm.
being flexible, being respectful. So if even in disagreement, again, we can revisit it as we all figure out, right? So even that timeline, some people might say, no, we gotta really decide right now, and that's got to be the way it is
Yeah.
forever. Some are going to say, no, we can revisit it in 6 months. So this is what I'm saying: the nuances of actually
Mhm.
running a business of like this is it's a lot of negotiations. It's a lot of ideas that we have to figure out what's going to end up
Yeah.
winning, so to speak,
Yeah.
right?
And that's the neat thing about it is that you are figuring it out.
Hmm.
The guest house it's been successful the last year and a half. It books up all the time. It's really interesting to see to watch the project, and especially as someone who lived in that area for a while, to see new life being brought into this,
Yes.
to see just this whole new creation. It used to be this pink house, and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
it's this other, just this beautiful blue that I really like. And
Yeah.
seeing people go in and out and celebrating
Hmm.
everything from birthdays to anniversaries and
Hmm.
enjoying the town. One of the things I liked the most about, if we just kind of jump back to the show, and if you're just jumping in here, there was a reality show called Miss Independent, INN, that was filmed around this whole project, that was aired locally and has not yet gone on to streaming. That's kind of in talks right now, but really followed that process of you ladies coming together, purchasing this
Hmm.
bed and breakfast that was from 1858, and then renovating it and opening it. And through this whole thing, watching it all come together and then seeing it become reality. When you walk into, you see designs of something like for the kitchen. And I remember seeing what the kitchen looked before. There were like
Oh
two
my
different
gosh.
kitchens.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now it's the most outstanding, beautiful, giant kitchen
Hmm.
that when you think of how you would want your family to be around, or if it's a group of people that you're enjoying it with, the whole idea of creating spaces where people can slow down and spend time with the people that they care about
Yeah.
is so neat. And I think to be able to be part of that, I really admire you ladies, because not only did you jump into something that you really didn't know anything about, and it would be your first time doing it, you've had multiple firsts along the way. And to
Uh,
be able to come together and
yeah.
help each other, where one knows this area better, one knows that area better, I think it's been a real beautiful showing of that, an example of that. Because if there's something that you really want to do, and just the idea of just going for it and doing it. I saw you use a drill for the first time, right? Swing a sledgehammer for the
Right.
first time.
Right. Yeah. And that's what the show was really great for, is kind of introducing and experiencing those first. And then you're right, all of us, we have our different
Yeah.
backgrounds and skills. So we have an amazing financial expert who obviously helps us with our budget and our financing. For me, when the occasion pops up, when there are new ordinances being introduced for the city and things like that, that's where I can be
Yeah.
helpful and kind of walk through that. So no, it has been really great and interesting, and we're just getting started. I mean, that's the other thing. Like the first year doesn't count. That was all renovations, right? So
Mhm.
we're not quite done with our first year of operations, and then so we're kind of excited actually
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
close that out, look backwards, because you can only see trends when looking backwards, right? So and it's like, all right, so then how do we figure out the next year or two or five? What does that look like? So
Yeah. What does that look like?
mhm.
Exactly. And if you're go ahead and pop on, I'll put notes in the description and in the show links, but
Mhm.
theguesthouse.mn.com, because then you can see photos, and there's even a little trailer of the reality show that was done around it, Miss Independent. So again, it's the guest house, MN, like
Mhm.
Minnesota.com, and pull that up because you can see the photos and learn more about it
Mhm.
and what was happening all around it. Kelly makes a good point here. The neighbors must have been thrilled as well. They were, because it really took something that was this kind of this dead space and brought life to it. And the show featured the community around it. You guys went ice fishing. You shared about there was a whole dog sledding race
Yeah,
that was
The
going on.
Klondike,
Yeah, and it's
Klondike
coming up
races.
again
It is,
in
yes.
January, February.
And this area has their holiday market or Christmas market,
Yep.
Apple Days. Yeah. So as a community itself, Excelsior, and I live in Fridley, so I don't live here, but it is just like that small town,
Yeah.
almost stepping
Think
backward in
Hallmark
time.
movie. Think Hallmark movie.
100%, one hundred
Yeah.
percent, yeah, very much that way. Which I love, right? And I think that any human being kind of gets into that energy right away and
Yeah.
responds to that. But the fact that we're able, and I just wanted to make so the Birdhouse Inn was very beloved, and in fact, like when I talk about it and I say it was the pink house on the corner,
Yeah.
everyone knows, who's
Everybody knows.
local, what it was. And so that it's been kind of reborn or
Yeah,
reinvented
yeah.
has been I think very good for sure.
Mhm.
But also I just wanted to give a shout out though for I think it was, I don't know, 30 years or 50 years that the
Yeah,
previous owner owned it. And there were a lot of memories made there at the Birdhouse Inn too. And
yeah,
that's what I love, right? It's
yeah.
just like for every rendition. And before the Birdhouse Inn, it was a boarding house many,
Mhm,
many
mhm.
years ago, 100 years ago, I think. And I think loggers stayed there or something. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's a whole and now it has this whole 'nother evolution, and what I
Hmm.
really love about this whole story, like I said, is the idea of taking on something new, whether you planned it or it's an opportunity that pops into your lap, and it could be scary, it could be something you've never done before, and just going with it and doing it with a group like that, I think was absolutely fantastic and really helped with the learning curve because you all brought your expertise in different areas to the table. But I also think it's a story and a great example of not being afraid to just put yourself out there and do what
Hmm.
it is that you want to do, what creating something new, whether it's a business, getting into something. We live in a day and age with the internet and YouTube where you can learn anything. There's
I
so many
know.
resources out there.
Yeah.
And I love that idea of just finding ways to put the pieces together. But I think my biggest takeaway, even from talking to you, is just, seize the day, right? If it's something that you feel passionate
Yeah.
about, to just
Well,
do it.
yeah, and I think yeah, spot on, especially for women, right? Sort of that if you feel intimidated, things like that. But whatever it is that, to your point, that
Yeah,
speaks to you,
yeah.
like don't be afraid to try it and just go for it. And I was gonna say too, for our website with the guest house MN, be
Mhm.
sure to check out the blog as well
Oh,
because
yeah.
those are nice stories, and like you're just gonna learn about the owners in a more in-depth way, and things like that. So,
Yeah, and Karen's hello, listening in while working from home in beautiful North Vancouver
oh
Island,
wow,
BC, Canada.
oh my
That's
gosh,
fabulous, Karen.
okay,
We're gonna wrap up, but if you have any other questions, go ahead and post them in the comments. If you're joining us on the podcast, go ahead and reach out. You can always reach me at natalie@tonkatalk.com. We love sharing the ways that people create community and create connection. And definitely with a project like this, you've done this and created this space where people can go, whether they're just doing events or they're just getting together with their family. I know one woman that rented the carriage house, which is the smaller
mm-hmm.
part over the garage, 3 bedrooms, beautiful kitchen,
Yep,
and she was there herself and just had a really
ah,
quiet time
I love that.
in town to visit family, and then was able to have the family come over and
Hmm.
visit her, and it's really neat to see people coming from all over to stay there as that's the destination.
Right.
They want to get together somewhere in the country with their family. They're doing that. And I've been fortunate to meet some of those people. And it just amazes me. And yes, Nancy sounds like an awesome escape. I think we all need that, finding something that where we can
Hmm.
slow down and actually connect and spend time together. So I love sharing these stories of
Yeah.
the people behind creating these amazing spaces. So thank you so much, Mandy,
Yeah.
for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. And I guess the last thing I'll add about the guest house too, the benefit of having this collaborative group of women, and it's
Yeah.
privately owned essentially, right? Lots of flexibility. So I mean, in terms of if you want to rent it out for even a day for something and not sleep overnight, talk to us.
Yeah, reach out. Well, I'll
Absolutely.
share the link to your website, but it's the
Thank you.
guest house mn.com. Go take a look at the pics and all that, and then, share your thoughts with us. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining.
This is so fun,
It
and
is
happy
fun.
holidays.
Thank you. You
Yeah.
as well. It is a ton of fun. I love it when people jump in the chat. And Nancy says, love the women empowerment. Absolutely. That was so much of the inspiration behind, doing it
Yeah.
and coming together. Thanks for sharing with us. Absolutely. Thank you so much for jumping in and joining. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel for Tonka Talk. If you enjoyed this video, like it and share it with others. I think it's a great example of maybe there's somebody who wants to start a new venture and just needs a little bit of encouragement that,
That's
what,
right.
you can do this. You can get this going. Reach out to the ladies at the guest house. They have so many, I think, tips and things to share. And in the blog, I know you share a lot of that too. So please absolutely check it out. Everybody, thank you for joining. I will talk to you Let's see. I'm trying to like think when I actually will talk to you
In the
soon.
new year?
No, oh no,
Oh, oh
no.
no.
We
Okay,
talk
I'm
every
sorry.
day.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
Almost, oh, not so much every day on this channel, but close to it. So absolutely. Thank you for being here, everybody. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.